teach your kids to read, and read is very important for life. I came from a country that it's not that much enforced like to the kids, and here it's so natural, and then I feel so happy that Luna she loves books. She doesn't watch TV. She just staring at the books, reading her books. Well, we love baby time. We
All right, all who want to approve the minutes, vote aye.
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 Okay, ayes have it, motion carried. The minutes from last meeting has been approved. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, 4A, discuss and consider action regarding the historic colored addition subdivision project. Thank you. Yes.
Good evening, Equity Advisory Board. My name is Brianna Miller. I'm a Special Projects Manager for the City Manager's Office. And tonight we're going to discuss the historic colored addition. Before we dive into the nitty-gritty, I want to talk about how we got here. And then we'll talk about the plan and where we're going next. So first, some background. At the last Equity Advisory Board meeting, you heard a proposal from community members for the for the African American history project, or African American corridor proposal for the historic colored addition. That was a proposal that was presented to staff and then presented to the City Council at a lunch and learn in early March. During that lunch and learn, Council wanted the Equity Advisory Board to have a hand in that project and really carry it and lead it forward. And so at the last meeting, you heard that proposal from the community. And we mentioned during that meeting that we would come forward with a plan of how to proceed forward. But there's even more history to the historic colored addition than just where we are today and the discussions we're having today. Although last meeting I gave a very high level overview, it was very quick and you heard a lot of information at that time. And it's always great to talk about history again. So some background for the area. The image you see here is the original kind of plat of the historic colored addition. It was established in 1910 after black workers were prohibited from living within the city limits of Pflugerville. A local farmer, LaRue there's a typo, that should be Norton, sold 1 acre lots to forming Pflugerville's colored addition. Families built key community areas, including a local school. You have the St. Mary's Baptist Church. There also at one point was St. Matthew's Missionary Church. There's 2 cemeteries in the area. And it was established throughout the years. At one point, I believe in 1978, county officials attempted to rename the subdivision, but residents successfully preserved its historic name, keeping it as the historic colored addition. And then years later, in 2019, City Council adopted the Infrastructure and Land Use Study. And during that time, staff worked with the community in the area and listened and heard a lot of feedback from them as they were developing the study, including keeping the name, which was heard then. We've also heard recent feedback about keeping the name, and I want to make it clear that in tonight's plan, there's no recommendation at all to change the name. That's not even touched. Staff is not recommending changing the name and remains committed to calling it the Historic Colored Addition. That Infrastructure and Land Use Study identified improvement projects, and so the Historic Subdivision Improvements Project was launched to improve the infrastructure in the area, including street paving, water service, wastewater infrastructure, and overhead utilities, as well as sidewalks and lighting in the area. But outside of just infrastructure projects, staff has also been working on, our amazing library team, including Daniel Barra, have worked on a digital history project for Pflugerville. And they have an entire section on the digital history project called Black History of Pflugerville, where they have collected stories and pictures, maps, and archived them. So this project is something that's long been on our minds. During the Infrastructure and Land Use Study, it was discussed as well, and so has been on staff's mind for quite some time. Since 2020 through 2025, we've seen construction progress steadily. You might have thought in 2020 there was no dirt moving, and that's because there was a lot of pen to paper happening, design, right-of-way acquisition, utility design, identifying pipelines, all kinds of things where you're just not going to see dirt move. But now you can see dirt moving if you drive by. For those who aren't familiar, the Historic Colored Edition is along East Pecan, street. And so if you're passing by Pflugerville High School, you pass by the Historic Colored Edition. On the left is an aerial image from January of this area under construction. You can kind of tell that it looks like a bunch of dirt roads because that's them getting ready to pave the roads. The two images on the right are from today, this afternoon, of ongoing construction that's occurring. In the center image, you can see that it's hard to tell, but on the far right, there is drainage is underway for drainage in the area. On the far right, you'll see at the intersection of Russell, the ongoing construction that's occurring there, and you can see that there is very little right-of-way. For those that don't know what right-of-way is the area in which the city can utilize that public strip of land for public good. Utilities is typically what goes in those areas. And so that is the ongoing construction that's occurring today. This construction is anticipated to be complete mid-2027. So with that, before you have the Historic Color Edition Beautification Plan. This plan is cut into 3 phases, and I'll talk at a high level of what is incorporated within those phases. The purpose and the intent that at the end of these 3 phases, we anticipate that this plan will span over 3 to 5 years, and part of that is because of the ongoing construction. We quite literally cannot put anything in place right now because it is actively under construction, so it wouldn't really work out well there right now. But at the end, we hope to see a community validated and curated and approved by the Equity Advisory Board. You'll see installed wayfinding and signage that meet city standards across the way, public art installations, and then maintenance program and storytelling by the Equity Advisory Board. So phase 1, we like to call the engagement and foundations phase. This is the phase that really helps us get our footing together. One of the very first, there are 4 tasks within this phase, and I kind of want to emphasize that while there are 3 phases, that is not to say that any of these tasks can't happen simultaneously. It's not like we're going to do task 1, wait until task 1's complete, then do task 2. If these things can happen at the same time, we're going to have them happen at the same time. Same with the phases. If there's some of the phases that can overlap, we'll have them overlap and we'll make sure that we move forward. So the first task is listening sessions and oral histories, which is what this Equity Advisory Board is great at and has done in the past, but very specific to this area. This will be led by the Equity Advisory Board to engage and meet with the founding families, nearby property owners, St. Mary's Baptist Church, their members, and then the community at large as well, to collect oral histories and help research and organize these stories. These stories will also be incorporated within the digital, the library's digital history project. But what's also great about these stories is that we'll be able to learn more about the area and the history of the area than just what we've collected. But in later phases, you'll see that those stories will help identify what public art should look like, what themes should emerge from there. While we have our stories and we have the general history of the area, you may learn things that really should be shared through public art or through signage or other ways as well. At the same time, staff is going to work on a signage location analysis. So I've alluded it to before. The right-of-way conditions cause some concern on what we can put in that right-of-way. You're not going to see it in this plan exactly, but right now staff is working on and has contemplated it in the 2019 infrastructure study, having a park within the area of the Historic Colored Edition. Ongoing at this current time, well, not literally right now, but we have a bond committee that is reviewing projects to potentially go forward a bond election. Within our parks bonds projects that we are contemplating and will recommend for approval by the bond committee is the concept of a reunion park in the historic colored edition, which would outline the ability for staff to identify land acquisition to then later be a public park, which is a great location for public art. Why you don't see that completely outlined in this plan is because it has to go for an election. So we don't know what that looks like. So this plan was developed with that in mind. It can both work independently without that land, but also works great if that land is in place. So you'll see some, and I'll point them out, some alluding to potential land in that area for a public park. So this task kind of has in mind that if we don't have a park in that area, what do we do? And so we're now analyzing the constraints that are in place and possible locations for our signage to be put in place. There are some, because at the very entrance of the Historic Color Edition is on Pecan, that's a TxDOT road, so we have some TxDOT requirements that we have to follow before any signage is put in place. So that'll happen, and staff will bring that report back to the Equity Advisory Board. And then we'll discuss public art locations as well, not just signage, but also public art at the same time. And then once light poles are up, we hope to have light pole banners that will start signifying this area as the Historic Colored Edition and bringing in place, as we're working through the public art, that initial wayfinding for the area. At the same time, the city and the Equity Advisory Board will look at opportunities for historic designations in the area and move forward through that process as well. If we identify possible designations, we'll move forward with the community as well as this board to seek those. Phase 2 is the storytelling and artist selection phase. This is probably the more fun phase of it all because you get to look at art. But this is where this board will identify those stories to share. Work as well as still continuously working closely with residents, the community, founding families, and St. Mary's Baptist Church to identify those narratives that could be both featured on the website, but as well within either signage or art in the area. Task 2 is the design of the signage. That's always fun. At this time, staff will also evaluate other opportunities where we can incorporate work that we're already doing for wayfinding within the city, so that way it's cohesive but still unique to the area as well. Task 3 is public art themes and engagement efforts, and that's where we'll work with the board on creating a unifying theme for the artwork that reflects the heritage, resilience, and identity of the Historic Colored Edition. That could possibly involve consultants depending on where we are in that phase and how complex it might become. Task 4 is public art locations. So we do all the work of where can we actually put things? And then task 4 is where we'll actually decide where those things go. Within here, priority will be given to locations on city-owned land to streamline implementation, and that is that nod to the possible park within the Historic Colored Edition. So if we have that park, that's where the priority will be for that public art. If we don't have that park, then we'll identify other locations. And there will be challenges along the way because of not just the amount of right-of-way, but as well as the differing TxDOT and state requirements that we have to follow when putting items within the right-of-way. Task 5 is public art design and approval, and that's when we'll work with this board as well as the community on the actual design of the public art in the different phases. It'll be reviewed and considered by the Equity Advisory Board. It'll include the storytelling content, signage concepts, and the design of public art. And then phase 3 is the installation of public art and continued stewardship. Task 1 is signage fabrication and installation, so the actual creation and installation. And that's where we'll also incorporate the Historic Colored Edition within our citywide wayfinding program. And that's ongoing, so that's why you see this in a later phase, because we're still developing that as well. So it'll go in hand in hand. Task 2 is public art installation. That's when we actually finalize everything and start installing that artwork. Task 3 is the maintenance and stewardship plan, and that's where I'll then identify, working with the Equity Advisory Board, a long-term maintenance plan for the area as well as the public art. And then any possible future storytelling updates as needed. Overall, within this plan, there are different cost estimates, but they are just estimates. As we go through each task and phase, we'll get closer and closer to narrowing down what that looks like. And because construction won't be complete until mid-2027, you most likely will see items, if adopted and approved by this board as well as the City Council, you'll see funding in future budget years. Right now, there's no spending because we're still working on all of the details. And so at the end of it all, you should hopefully see beautiful infrastructure in the Historic Color Edition, a collection of wonderful stories of the history of the area that's available digitally, and then also art that reflects those stories, the heritage, and the history of the Historic Colored Edition. So next steps, and then I'll pause for questions. Staff does recommend approval of the Historic Colored Edition beautification plan by the Equity Advisory Board. And then we would prepare and bring a resolution to City Council for City Council to adopt the plan as well. So it's first adopted by the Equity Advisory Board with a recommendation for Council to adopt the plan as well. And then upon approval, we'll begin phase 1 implementation activities and move forward on completion. Any questions?
So this proposal and recommendation, does it differ at all from what we heard from the community in the last meeting, or is this essentially capturing what folks from that group are asking for?
So the proposal you heard from last meeting had a little bit more specific request on kind of type of signage and items like that. This one's a bit more high level. We did ensure that we included signage and art within the project, within the plan, which was the request that we heard. And so it's not exactly the plan or the proposal that they provided. Working through right-of-way construction timelines and narrowing down cost estimates differs from the proposal that you saw.
My concern being we had quite a large contingency at the last meeting, so I don't know if the smaller representation, which I'm assuming there's a small group here, if how to interpret that if there's a disagreement or a material disagreement about what's being put forward versus what was sought.
I wouldn't say there's a disagreement in it. I think we're at the point in the project where the concept is fantastic. We're just trying to be mindful of the amount of right-of-way we have to put in. Like one of the proposals was a gateway sign, which is a great concept, but we're unsure at this moment how much right-of-way we actually have to place that in. And so there are steps ahead of some of those concepts that we need to make sure we understand first before saying, let's do this. And so that's why it's broken up kind of into these phases as we finish construction, and we can really focus on how much right-of-way we have in certain areas where drainage is considered, sidewalks, on-street parking, things like that, so that we can be mindful of placement of art, gateway signs, and all of those types of features. And so it's not that it's being dismissive or not inclusive of it, it's just there's a lot more foundational work that we need to have before we can say, yes, we can do this. And so without that, we wouldn't recommend committing to that without that base knowledge. And that's really what we do for all of our projects.
So that it could still be shaped as we get more information, the design and...
Absolutely. And the document that Brianna put together, I passed out just before she started speaking, kind of goes through what those steps look like. And I think as we move forward through them, we'll articulate them more clearly because we'll gather more information as we move through each of those tasks that our teams put together.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess with my only addition to that is I think going forward, it would be a good idea for us to include dependencies as we move through those phases, because that's part of the discovery, right? Like, we have an idea of what that task is going to be, but to Claudia's point, if people had some very specific ideas, us being able to gather those dependencies will give them a level of transparency later of like, okay, we had those, you had those recommendations. This would be dependent on, this law or this policy or this item, which will kind of close the feedback loop. That way people don't think that, like, I gave this idea and, like, nobody's hearing me. Yeah.
I think my question is maybe more procedural, perhaps, just to understand when you take the resolution, assuming we recommend approval, right, whatever, when you take the resolution to council, is it just approving the plan in theory, or is there also funding attached to that decision that they'll make, or would that occur at a different time?
My brain just blinked on every answer ever. So
You had to prepare a lot for all the presentations. So the resolution will say, hey, this is a project that the city is supporting. And then as we go through each budget season, we refer back to that, much like we do our master plans, where we'd say, oh, we want to do this road project or that. This is a resolution that's passed, that the equity board is behind. And we'd say, okay, for this fiscal year, we anticipate needing X dollars, and we'll request the council budget for that. And so it would be based on the fiscal year, what tasks we believe we'll be able to accomplish in that year, and then it would be budgeted through the budget process.
So I guess my follow-up request would be that we continue to receive updates about when those funding conversations are happening that are associated with this, right? So that we can continue to support and we can have that like transparency to community that wants to come out and support the project. Like ultimately it will happen because it is funded, right? That's the answer. Just keep us updated about where that is hanging, and then specifically like what is included in whatever amount of money is proposed, right?
Being the lead advisory board for this project, I would anticipate that this project would be on every, most if not all of your agendas, so that we can provide you those monthly updates about kind of where we are with the tasks as we move forward.
Appreciate that.
It's on. Sorry. I thought I turned it off. I think I highlighted this or maybe asked it as a question, so I'm going to keep bringing it up so you can anticipate as part of these updates. But my question in the meeting last month was about the cemeteries. My understanding that in the historic colored edition, there's two, and you mentioned two. My understanding, and the historian, whoever's doing the research can correct me, but my understanding is that there's a black cemetery, and that LaRue Norton in 1920, so like a decade after this was established, and again, don't quote me on the exact year, sold land to Mexicans who also had escaped the Mexican Revolution and were in this area and couldn't go back because of the revolution, and they also needed burial land. And so Mr. Norton also sold land to those Mexicans that were in this community to be buried, which is that Santa Maria Cemetery. So my ask would be, if it is within the historic colored edition, if it's part and parcel of that area, that I wouldn't want that to be forgotten in the digital history or the stories or the historical markers, if it's not already. Because when I read that, I was really touched by one community of colored people helping another community of colored people in our area, and I think that's worth highlighting as well as part of the storytelling for this historic colored edition. Don't quote me on any of that. That was my recollection of what I read from the library.
absolutely, yes.
I think I would just note to that the plat that Brianna showed a moment ago that was done in 1910, you'll see that the cemeteries are actually outside of the subdivision of that. And so, however, for the project overall, we do consider both cemeteries inclusive of the inside the project, even though it's outside the legal boundaries of the subdivision in that image that we share. Thank you.
So, follow-up question. What sort of outreach has been done to the folks that caretake the Santa Maria Cemetery? Are they aware of this proposal?
I'm not sure we know who caretakes that particular cemetery. That's some research that we need to do. We've heard a lot from the community. We've worked a lot with St. Mary's, and there's just more outreach and knowledge that we need to gain as well.
I have one more question. So I know that we talked about that this project will probably estimated between 3 to 5 years. When you suggest we'll get, like, have we already envisioned what items that we would like to complete in year one? Can someone share like an overview of what we're thinking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in all things go great. There's no bumps in the road.
Yeah,
And
pie in the sky scenario.
pie in the sky scenario. Everything within phase one would be complete in the first year.
Okay.
Right. And so that contemplates construction being complete, those banners being on the light pole, staff identifying, doing the analysis, identifying locations, signage and public art locations. You're part of the collecting those stories. Would need to kick off, sooner than later, right? To be done. If we call May, now that I'm actually looking at the timing, I thought it was September for a second there. So it's May of 2026. So let me backtrack a little bit and say a year and a half from now, phase one would be done, because the construction's not done until kind of summer of 2027. And so those light poles, we wouldn't be able to put the light poles up until then. So in a year, maybe task 1 through 3 are done, and those next couple of months we're waiting on task 4, which is the light pole banners. The listening sessions and oral histories, we've done something very similar in the past with the listening tour, so we have a good framework for that.
I do too.
That I think this board could very quickly come up with a plan and kick those off pretty soon, and start working with the community on collecting those stories.
Great.
And then ideally phase 2 is year 2, right? And then phase 3 is year 3. The reason why we give a 3 to 5 year is that if that Reunion Park bond passes, there's going to be some more time needed for land acquisition. Getting it passed, then identifying land, then acquiring that land, creating the plan for the park, implementing the park. That piece is a little bit longer, and so that's where maybe the public art installation you'll see a little bit later because of the park.
I think, too, when we kind of think about years, sometimes can be confusing. We think about calendar year versus fiscal year. And so we often think in fiscal years, which is probably part of the September and those kind of things. And so when we think about phase 1, we would think that's fiscal year 27. So that's something that starts in October, wraps up the next year. And so phase 2 would be kind of that fiscal year 28. And so that's the years and how we think and approach this.
Got it. No, that makes sense. I just wanted to get an understanding, because I know that it will take time for us to lock down committed dates, but I wanted to hear more about the goals, where we're heading towards each year. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, but I was thinking September.
Can I ask a question I didn't know I had until that conversation? As far as the bond discussions, if community is wanting to be part of advocating for Reunion Park, how do they do that? Where do they do that? When, and all of that? So
do you want to take that, Emily? Okay. The Bond Advisory Committee is still going through projects. I believe this month they will finalize their recommendation to council for projects they'd like to see on a possible bond election. That will then go to council for council consideration, for council to determine what will go on a bond or not go on a bond election based off of that committee's recommendation. Once they call that election, we'll have information on the website about the projects that are within the bond. We have information on our website now, generally speaking, about what the bond process looks like, and that's pflugervilletx.gov/bond or bonds. Bonds. Terry said bonds. It's with an S at the end. I couldn't, bonds. Multiple of them. And so that's on our website now with general information. As we narrow down the recommendations from the Bond Advisory Committee, we'll have more information on the website with those projects. And then we'll continue to update not just our website, but our social media and online about the bond as well. As we get closer to calling an election, the information that the city can share about bonds has to be very factual and cannot sway or be persuasive at all. So you'll see those just facts about the projects.
That bond proposal is grouped with other parks projects, and so I think there's 6, and Reunion Park is one of those, and so it's unlikely that you'd see it as an individual item, but grouped as a park bond that wouldn't be inclusive of Reunion Park. So just if you're looking for that, and then certainly word of mouth and support from your friends or neighbors is how a lot of times that word gets out if you don't follow us on other platforms.
And these bond committee meetings are open to the public, no different than the Equity Advisory Board. Like, people can go and listen in. Yeah.
Yep. They're on
So,
our
and you'll
website.
find it on the website when those meetings happen.
And I believe we stream them. We stream them as well.
Okay. Thank you.
So another question I have, just for curiosity, how often is the city meeting with the committee who's driving the insights and the proposals, items that we want to add to this plan? Like, how often are we connecting?
So really it's the Equity Advisory Board leading it. And so you could create, if you wanted, a subcommittee to meet with members of the public if you'd like. Kind of that nitty gritty detail of how you want to move forward with that is flexible.
That's okay.
And kind of up to on how you want those conversations to be had. And so generally in here we talk about engaging with the community, storytelling, story gathering. How you want to go about that is flexible and to be determined by you.
Got it. Thank you.
So I just wanted to mention regarding this bond conversation on the Bond Election 2026 website on for Pflugerville, there is a survey, community survey, and it closes today. So if you would like to take it, it closes today. There is a take the survey button.
Thank you.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
In order to move this forward, we are asking for your action tonight.
Okay. So for the approval of the historic colored edition beautification plan, I will entertain a motion to approve the plan on the floor.
I make a motion to approve the plan.
Yes,
I'll second.
Claudia. Okay, so motion was initiated and seconded to approve our beautification plan. Should we take this to a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion carried for us to move forward to approve the beautification plan.
Wonderful. Thank you. Our next steps, we'll bring this forward to City Council as a resolution. And we would invite the Equity Advisory Board to attend as well, should council have any questions.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
It'll be on the May 26th council meeting.
Okay.
I guess I didn't sign up. Did I not sign up?
I thought that Mimi may have signed me up ahead of time. She asked me to be present on behalf of the Color Collective, Edition Collective today. And if
Yeah.
I miss
Yeah.
asking,
You can still speak.
Yeah, you're still open to speak.
okay, so I can.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
If I was out of term or something, I thought that it was, good evening, Chair and members of the Equity Advisory Board and neighbors. My name is Lady Nicole. I stand here tonight on behalf of the Pflugerville Black History Project and Colored Edition Collective, and I see that y'all have made quite a bit of leeway prior to me getting here. Descendants and families and community members who care deeply about the future of this city and the truth of its history. First, we want to acknowledge this moment. The fact that the board is discussing a path forward today matters. The fact that conversations are happening publicly matters. And the willingness to create a plan is an important step in the right direction. We are here tonight to discuss. We believe the Colored Edition deserves not only recognition, but partnership. As this plan is developed, we are asking that the voices of the descendants of families and long-term communities members not simply be heard, but meaningfully included in shaping with what comes next. The Colored Edition is not just a story from the past. It is living history. It is family history. It is community memories. And for many of us, it's personal. The Colored Edition is not just a story from the past. Oh, sorry about that. We believe in the process. The process has the opportunity to become the model for the city's honor Black history with care, accountability, and collaboration. So tonight, our request is simple. As the city moves forward with its plan, ensure that the descendants, family, and community voices have a seat at the table from the beginning, not after the decisions are already made. We also hope the plan includes the following: formal historical recognition of the Colored Edition within the city's public records, maps, and storytelling efforts, protection and preservation of remaining historical sites, stories, and cultural landmarks connected to the community. 3, ongoing collaboration with descendants' family and local residents in decisions related to this history and this land. And 4, support for oral histories and archival efforts so the stories of the elders and the longtime residents are preserved for future generations. And 5, a transparent public process that allows the community to stay informed and engaged as the work moves forward. We are encouraged because community members are already organized, documenting stories, conducting research, and building connections across generations. The energy is here. The people are here, and the commitment is here. Our collective is also meeting monthly to continue this work, gather the stories, organize residents, and build community-driven recommendations. We welcome members of the board, the city leadership, and community partners to join us in those conversations as we move forward together. To this board, thank you for listening, for your work, for the work you are doing tonight. And to the neighbors and descendants who continue to show up with love, persistence, and courage, thank you. Your presence is helping shape the future of Pflugerville in real time, and we look forward to continuing working together.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lady Nicole. I appreciate those words. And it definitely matters that with this board, we wholeheartedly believe that nothing is created about us without us, right? So that is the part of true equity, is having those in the room who this work is for, who this work is supporting and representing, for them not to just be in the room, but be able to wield that power and support and collaboration. So I appreciate that.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other individuals that wish to come to the podium before we move to our next agenda item? Okay.
Yeah, I'll say something. Told to call it what. Yeah, hi, Jennifer Barnes. I live just outside of Pflugerville in the ETJ. I've been a part of the community since 2018. And I only just recently found out about the historical colored edition in Pflugerville, which I think is pretty significant because I'm a history nerd. I'm very into local history, and I am excited to also have learned that this is being considered to lift up the profile of this important piece of local history. Yeah, because obviously, like in the time that we're living in, we are facing the erasure of history, especially Black history and other communities of color, and the neglect of local places like this is actually the simplest form of historic erasure. So the city putting the money behind this and the work behind this is so important to my values, and I think to the values of the Pflugerville area, the Pflugerville community, that we respect the history of the people who live here, who founded this community. And also that I hope that in the design of this, that it includes the details of the people who live there, which again, I'm just now learning about this. So I hope soon to be able to know the names and just be able to have respect enough for those people to speak about them directly. I also hope that it's been mentioned that they don't know yet who is actually maintaining the Mexican cemetery in there, which is, yeah, that is a fascinating piece of history as well. And I also hope that is given equal respect in the process of this. And so again, I am a member of the community, and I'm very much in support of this initiative, and I hope that it moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. If there are no more public comments on this topic, we will move on to the next item agenda.
Good evening. My name is Terry Toledo. I'm the Director of Management Services, and I work in the City Manager's office. And I'm here tonight to talk to you about our Title VI program. You received a draft of the program in your packet, but the reason that I'm here is because as a recipient of federal financial assistance, the city is required to adopt a formal Title VI program. And I think you'll find in my presentation tonight that a lot of these things, fortunately, the city was already doing in many ways, but we didn't have a formal adopted program and plan specifically outlining our steps and in compliance with the Texas Department of Transportation, which is required for us to receive additional federal financial assistance. So we were notified by TxDOT. We've put some meetings in place, we've put a plan in place, and I'm here tonight to get your feedback on that plan with plenty of time to implement any recommendations and suggestions that you may have for it. So to start, for those that aren't aware of the Title VI program, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, it's about discrimination and prohibiting discrimination based on race, color, national origin in any program receiving federal financial assistance. As I already mentioned, you'll find that through many of our programs, we already avoid discrimination through our city practices, furthering that we extend based on age, sex, and disability. And so we want to make sure that we are fully complying with the Title VI program. From that, We are required to post Title VI policy statements. Upon adoption of the program, we will build a website that has specifically all of our information in one place so that it can be found by the public, specifically with the policy of the city of Pflugerville as a recipient of Title VI that ensures that we shall, on the grounds of race, color, or national origin, no one shall be excluded from participation in or be denied the benefits of or be subjected to discrimination in any operation of the city of Pflugerville. Upon adoption of this program, the Title VI posters will go up in our utility billing lobby as well as on our website in English and Spanish, and we will make sure that this information is further available to the public. On that note, I wanted to highlight some of the things we're doing now. We already review, collect, and analyze statistical and census data, but that's one of the key components and one of the key requirements of this policy is to make sure that we know our audience and that we are providing materials in languages that are needed upon request. If you go to our city's website, on the bottom right-hand corner, you can select and it will automatically translate into a myriad of languages for you. We also have a language line, which is available if someone calls us in a language in which our staff are not familiar, although we certainly do have bilingual staff being aware of the area in which we live and the high amount of people that speak Spanish specifically. But that is something that we are regularly reviewing. And we were asked to put together a public participation plan, which is noted within the program. And we were actually complimented in the initial review by TxDOT for some of the efforts we made in our transportation plan to engage the community as well as in our comprehensive plan. So even though the program might not have been specifically compiled together quite yet, we are proud to say that many of these activities are already underway by the city and that we do try very hard to make sure that all voices are heard. So what will we do? We're going to make sure that staff fully understand Title VI. As part of our onboarding with our employees now, we certainly have programs where we talk about discrimination and we talk about inclusion and for our employees. But we need to make sure that they're fully aware of this Title VI program and incorporating that into our trainings. Creating the complaint and referral process as required by TxDOT. TxDOT makes it really convenient. They provide draft materials, draft plans, etc. But getting those forms, as I mentioned, onto the website and active so that people can download those plans, those complaint and referral process forms, having those available at our reception and front lobby. So if someone does have a complaint or request those forms, that we can provide them to someone specifically, the ones that need to go to TxDOT. On top of that, we will be posting, as I mentioned, materials in our lobbies. Of course, they say the website's not enough, so we want to make sure that we have materials out and about in our public facilities. We also want to have regular reviews of our Title VI program areas as outlined within the draft plan that you received. There is a chart that was provided to us by TxDOT specifically requesting areas that they want to make sure that we're watching. Making sure that when we have right-of-way changes, that we're looking at the neighborhoods nearby that might be impacted, looking at who is going to be impacted by the work that the city is doing. And so on top of that, they want us to make sure that we have Title VI information ready for dissemination. They provide multiple brochures in English and Spanish that we can print and have out in our kiosks as well. It's about being accessible and having the materials accessible to the public and a public commitment to Title VI. From that, in addition, we will be naming a Title VI coordinator. We have nominated our assistant to the city manager because that position currently assists and has a direct line to our city manager and is able to firsthand know and be aware of the different issues that are coming into the city, and we feel like that would be the best position to be our Title VI coordinator. And we have already worked with legal to confirm that we have proper language in our contracts. So again, with our purchasing procedures, et cetera, from the city, much of this we were already doing, and that's a good thing. But we need to have it in a formal program and adoption. So from that, I asked for your feedback tonight. You had a copy in your packet of the program. I hope you had a chance to look at the draft plan.
think we.
It was attached to your agenda.
Oh, it's attached to it.
It should have been electronically attached, no?
I think we received it via email. We just don't have the hard copy in front of us.
Oh,
So
okay.
it makes it a little hard to
Okay.
follow along.
My next steps was to collect your recommendations. I can go over some of those that were received by TxDOT if that would make it a little bit easier to discuss tonight. We were asked to put our program in place within 90 days, which would put us at a June 24th deadline. But TxDOT already knows that we're working on this, and I don't anticipate an issue meeting that deadline. And our website will go live upon adoption. And the plan will be active for 3 years. So it'd be a 2026 to 2029 plan. Given that some of those materials are not on hand, let me go ahead and divulge further for you. Specifically referring to the draft plan, it's divided into multiple sections. It starts with the purpose and background, which I've given you tonight, expressing why we're doing this. From there, it emphasizes that the city is responsible for making sure that Title VI is prioritized. It goes into the requirements of the Civil Rights Act and a specific policy statement and non-discrimination statement that will be signed by our city manager following council approval of the plan. And it is a public statement of commitment. From there, our plan goes into staff responsibilities. I mentioned that we're designating a Title VI coordinator. Their job is to maintain and update the plan on our behalf, ensure that our agency staff receive necessary Title VI training, ensure prompt processing of Title VI complaints, and referring all of those to the Texas Department of Transportation when received. That information will also be clearly outlined on our website, the entire complaint procedure process. It will also include developing procedures for collection and analysis of statistical data. As I already mentioned, we do that in an ongoing fashion related to the census and the importance of knowing all of the information about our community that we can when it comes to making decisions, not only about transportation, but about all kinds of projects, how important that material is. We'll also be developing a program to conduct reviews of the various program areas as required, and making sure that we have that information both internally and externally. So those are the requirements of that Title VI coordinator. From there, we have been asked to specifically look at, for example, when we do right-of-way, making sure that our permits and relocations are non-discriminatory, making sure that demographic data is part of our necessary forms. When we work with contractors, reviewing our contracts to make sure that the necessary Title VI language is in there. Through the adoption of this program, we are going to turn in all of our materials to TxDOT, from the signed non-discrimination statement to the adopted plan and form from the council, and they will look at this collectively to make sure that we have checked all the boxes and made sure that we are complying fully with the program. They ask us to look at our planning, our short-term and long-term planning and transportation projects that I mentioned earlier. They were already pleased with some of the ways that we've engaged the public through our public participation plans along the way. So I am glad that we're already underway on that, but it's certainly, there's always room for improvement. We want to continue to do so and do well with that. We also are going to need to be documenting language access requests so that we can track and make sure that we don't just say, well, we have it available in English and Spanish. If there are other needs, our coordinator is going to know, and we'll be able to track that over time and make sure we're accommodating everyone. That falls under the data collection and analysis section of the program. Beyond that, our program does outline the complaint procedures, as mentioned and prescribed by TxDOT. And then from there, we've included our public participation and involvement upon reaching out to all of our different target audiences, both internal and external, to make sure that we're reaching out to the entire community. A list of ways that we engage with the public is referred to in the document as well, so people know how to get city information and where our information is going to be provided. And then from there, the plan completes with what they call a 4-factor analysis, which is including both information from the community survey, as well as looking at how people will encounter our program. So that is our commitment through this program, is that we are putting all of our information together, that we're going to be in full compliance. We all know that federal funding is important, yes, but even more important is to make sure that we don't discriminate in any way. And through this policy and this program, that will help ensure that the city stays continuously compliant. If you have any feedback on the plan, I'd be glad to provide a further link for you to review later. We can always send me an email. If after tonight you have some more thoughts when you further review the plan, let me know if you have any suggestions or recommendations, because there's still time. The plan is to take this to City Council on May 26th for review. So if you have suggestions, I do welcome those, and I also have some cards here tonight with me. I can provide you with my contact information so that you can provide that to me, since I understand you don't have a printed copy in front of you tonight.
To be honest, when I went to look to the email, I thought we had an electronic copy, and I'm not seeing that either.
I
Did
don't see
anyone?
it. We did not get it.
Okay.
I'm finding it very difficult to provide much comment or recommendation without seeing the thing, right? Yeah.
Well, I believe it's in the Legistar, so I don't know if I can get that link sent over, but we will do so.
I can.
Okay.
And then can I just ask a question? I think you mentioned y'all were contacted by TxDOT to get this going. Was there a reason for that contact, or was this just did something trigger
we
that?
received federal financial assistance. Some of the projects, specifically for Pflugerville Parkway, we did a positive offset and some turn lanes. We received some funding for some safety lighting on Piccadilly, as well as some accessible pedestrian signals. So when this funding is coming to us for transportation, we need to have this plan and policy in place. And they went to our website and did not see the adopted program, and so now we're working to make sure that we're in full compliance.
Got it.
I have a question as well. Is the origin of this requirement, does it date back to 60 years ago? Or was this a new requirement? Because this is tied to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, you said? So I'm curious, is that literally how long this has been required, for 60 years?
I don't have the date by which that TxDOT initially required this to be done. I did inquire if we needed to go back on previous awardings of federal assistance, et cetera, and they said no, because as they went through our website and they went through the research that they've already done, they saw areas that indicated that we were already working towards, if you will, we were already following many of the rules. They just wanted to make sure that going forwards we had a formal adopted plan.
Got it. Is there a consequence for not adopting one? I'm curious, not that
Well,
I'm
we certainly
suggesting we
don't-
not,
We
but
certainly don't want to jeopardize our relationship with TxDOT or our ability to receive federal assistance. But they're well aware that we are underway, that we're working on the plan, et cetera.
I'm curious about outside of this meeting, and then outside of the council meeting, what sort of public engagement on this there has been. I don't think this should count because we haven't seen the document, right? I guess I'll say that for the record, right? And so, how do we know what the public? How are we gathering that information about what the public believes should be captured in the program?
Making a note
Yeah, thank you.
on getting additional feedback related to the program plan. I think the next step is going to be that I need to make sure that you have a copy and that you guys can provide me with feedback before it goes to council.
Yeah, and happy to do our individual parts
Right.
to get it
No, I
out to
appreciate that.
people, but just curious about what that 30,000 feet vision was.
Right.
I think from my perspective, right, I'm always careful to make sure that we are not purporting to be the experts on anything, right, without talking to the community about what they think.
Okay. I have some ideas about how we can also incorporate some of that together in the next couple weeks.
And Terry, thank you so much. I'm sorry that we did not get the packet, so we can kind of
I'm
dig
sorry too.
a little bit deeper into it. I think during your explanation, though, a couple of things like hit a thumbs up. I think it's really important that you do have a point of contact of having a coordinator that's going to be responsible for the program to keep it moving, because that is how you continue to make sure you reach back out, find out what's working, what's not working, what new additions to the program that you need to create. The accessibility piece that you were touching on is really important, because I think being able to locate like information that's in different languages, knowing where that is more important than just having it created, because if they can't find it or they don't know it exists, then it has no value, right? So I hear that in your program of y'all are rectifying that, which is key. I think my question, and I'll dig deeper, I'll go back to the packet because it's probably answered in there, is who's, like, has the training for Title VI been baked? Who's facilitating that? Is it done within the city, or is there a third party? And what the objectives are for that training. Just wanted to make sure that it's not a simple check the box type of training, but something that actually will give value to the employees who are utilizing it.
Well, already working with our people and culture department, we went back and reviewed some of the trainings that we already provide to our employees. Like I said, when they're hired, we already have some trainings in place, but we don't have something that specifically says the Title VI program, what it is and why it's important. And so that's something that we're working on now to see what already exists that we can adopt either through TxDOT or create something of our own that we can then specifically have it address the Title VI program.
Got it.
So that's forthcoming.
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Just because TxDOT was mentioned on the previous agenda item for the historic colored edition, is there an intersection, pun intended, between this Title VII and that project?
Not that I'm aware of at this time.
I think this is really related to when you receive federal funding that it's required. We don't have federal dollars in that particular project, in the Historic Colored Edition project. But should we receive them from TxDOT maybe for pecan improvements, that's when this would also be triggered.
Grants are always a good thing, so we want to make sure that we're fully compliant with that. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time tonight. I'll make sure that you have my contact information, that we touch base again. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Terry. Okay. We will move on to the next item on the agenda, 4C. Discuss and consider action regarding the guiding principles framework. So last meeting, we had reviewed the guiding principles framework, wanted to get initial feedback from the board, and if there is any key changes and objections that we would like to add to the framework at this time, and if not, would like to consider if we wanted to move forward with entertaining a motion to approve. Is there any thoughts from the board at this time?
Is there a record I could look at potentially? Is it printed somewhere?
Yeah, thank you. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, just for context, we had like high level conversation last month about it. Like generally feeling good, but it's a living document.
Yeah.
And goal of this is like an internal framework for us.
Yeah, it is for us. So when we engage with the public on projects and initiatives, we use that as a framework to make sure we're actually practicing what we preach, like leading with equity, working operationally in a fair and accessible manner.
Yeah, I'll just add that, like, from my perspective, I'm happy to, like, you know, take what we got, right? And I think we talked about also
We can always
having that re-review.
Yeah,
look
we
at
can
your
always
now, like,
reassess,
how's it feel,
revamp.
how's it working?
Yeah,
It's not written in stone. We can refine.
exactly.
That all looks great. Who authored this? You did?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Any other? All right. So I will entertain a motion to approve the guiding principles framework.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Equity Advisory Board's guiding principles framework.
I'll second.
All right. The motion to approve the guiding principles framework was initiated by April 2nd by Roman. Should we take this to a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion carried for us to proceed approving the guiding principles framework, putting it into action. Thanks for everyone's collaboration, y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And then this will go out as like a final draft to all of us.
Yeah, I would say so, yes.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thanks for giving us, you know, some structure and a North Star.
Yeah,
And the leadership is much appreciated.
It looks great.
Absolutely. All right. Are there any other questions and thoughts before we adjourn? Okay.
For the item that we'll revisit, the Title VI, well, that's okay to just be done like over email for feedback
Okay,
and stuff?
yeah.
Okay.
Because of the time frame, yeah, you can actually send questions to Jennifer and she'll make sure that Terry gets them.
Perfect.
And
Perfect.
Jennifer's got the documents now, so we'll get those out too. Sweet. Apologize for that.
No worries.
No worries.
Good, all good.
We're all humans.
All right. So, meeting's adjourned.
Coming up, proclamations at City Council, budget update, 1849 park enhancements, National Night Out, Deutschenfest, and much more coming up on this edition of Pflugerville Focus. I had the honor of presenting proclamations at the